Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Finance Committee for December. Call it to order. I need a motion to accept the minutes of the November 12th meeting. So moved by Don Moore, second, Sue Clary. All in favor, say aye. Aye. It's approved. Okay, Larry is on, won't be on. Where's it? Or do we know a time?
We don't know.
We don't know, okay. So we're gonna have Larry on probably whenever he decides to join us. Okay, Treasurer, you're up first.
Okay, I emailed everybody the packet this morning. Hopefully you got it in time to take a look at it. Sales tax had a little bit of a dip this deposit over last year, but it was a small one. We're still trending 40,000 over this time last year. And I still think, to the best of my abilities, that we're probably still going to be about $250,000 over budget if the trend continues. The big wild card right now is NISAC has informed us that if you remember back in October, there was a reconciliation deposit that put us way over last year. They claim that there's another one of those coming in December where there's some holdback monies that are being released. I don't know the order of magnitude of that, if it's as big as the last one or if it's just another small piece. So that's it's kind of a wild card. And as soon as I know more, I'll make sure that I share it with you as soon as possible because it could be substantial in some of our conversations going forward. But the good news is sales tax hasn't been the tank that we thought it might have been 6 months ago. The other thing that might be interesting is I think it's the third deposit in December and the first deposit in January are when we'll see the effects of the Black Friday shopping. And I know personally this year when I went out scourging the county, I crossed that magical border up on Quaker Road, and Walmart, the actual Walmart brick and mortar store, did not have a Black Friday event. And I'm assuming that was out of precautions for COVID related stuff. What's interesting is by them not having a live event at the building and trying to force most of their stuff to a cyber event, remember that sales tax is point of delivery in a county like ours will benefit from that because somebody like me who would have gone to Walmart for the Black Friday event stayed home and ordered online and had it shipped to my house. So I'm hoping that that actually gives us a little bump that we wouldn't normally see, but that's yet to be determined. Any questions before I move on? James.
James Griff.
So just to add on to that, Al, some positive beat on the online sales is right now from a national or regional standpoint, they're talking about online sales up close to 30% year over year. So just
that could be a significant number. Yeah.
Dan Shaw.
Yeah, Al, you mentioned about possible true up at the end of the year. Will that, from the money that was out, will that also be done with the town government for chip and paving money?
My understanding, Mr. Shaw, if I heard you right, is this is sales tax money that was for prior periods that's now being released. So this isn't part of the state 20% withhold. This was some cash. This was some cash that's finally available.
Yeah, I think, Al, isn't that where there's quarterly and stuff was just slowed down because of COVID, I think is what they're referring to. Is that right?
And there was a lot of extensions given and stuff. I think this is kind of truing up some of those monies. But like I said, as I know more, I'll share it.
Is there anyone else? Okay, Al.
The next page in your packet is your cash balances. The only thing I did different this month is I wanted to kind of show you where we were now versus the same time last year. And you'll see that cash in general fund is down a little bit. I'm gonna take a deeper dive into that to make sure that our cash flows still look healthy and substantial. We've got a $4 million retirement bill coming up next week. So that's going to take a big chunk, pretty soon out of that. And then it won't be until April when the county starts seeing property tax revenues coming in. So I'm going to take a look at some cash flows for you in January 8th, I think is our next finance meeting, and I'll report out to you if I think there's anything that we need to talk about. Right now, I don't see any big red flags, but we are, almost $3 million down from this time last year as far as cash in our hands. I have to follow up with social services as well, because I know that some of their claims are still lagging a little bit behind, and they can be a substantial number as well, to the magnitude of $1 million a month. So let me dive deeper into that for you and report back.
Very good.
I also shared with you trial balance. Now this is very early, obviously, but we're, there's only a little bit of December left, but we still have 3 months of prior year vouchers to process, and there's a $2 million state aid that we booked for mental health. So there's a lot of stuff that's still going to happen. But what I did is I took a trial balance look at right today versus the same date last year, and you can see year over year the changes in fund balance, and the net cost year to year, I think, is one of the most interesting numbers when you look at the revenues versus expenses, and they're substantially different from this time last year for obvious reasons. But we're in a position that isn't a bad place to be right now. My projection that we'll use between $500,000 and $1 million of fund balance still holds true. I know that that's a wide range. I mean, $500,000 to $1 million is a wide range, but there's still so many variables. I don't think it'll be worse than that. I also shared with you a recap of the village and school returns this year. I don't remember ever doing that for you before, but it might be interesting to you all. It's something that we have to make them whole for in April. So it's kind of part of the cash flow projections too, is, how did this year compare to last year? And I found it very interesting that overall, they actually turned over less unpaids, even with the COVID event. So that's rather encouraging. I believe that even with some of the COVID hurdles, that both the villages and the towns turned in a little bit less unpaids. So not terrible news. It's that much less that we'll make them whole for in April as well. So, and then the final part of the packet is the budget to actual that I share with you every month. And like I said, there's no significant events that drew red flags to me that we need to talk about, but I can definitely answer any questions that you might have.
Anybody with a question? Very good. Okay. Next is the Auditing Services, is Resolution A. Has everybody read that, or anybody have any questions on our auditors? In the past, they've done the work for us before, and you can see the escalators for the next 5 years. And they won the bid, so I need a motion to move and rehire these fellows.
Move it.
Folks. Moved by Kathy, seconded by Dana. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Terry? Okay. Next thing up is Cybersecurity Grant Board of Elections. Al, were you going to be the one that spoke on that, I believe?
So basically, if you don't mind, Brian, we'll kind of wait and bundle that together with the conversation about IT, because they're kind of related. But the short story is there was a cybersecurity grant for Board of Elections that's able to pay for some of the data recovery and disaster recovery stuff that Terry brought out of her budget. So we're going to be able to return some $68,000 that Terry spent out of her budget back to her. That's going to be paid by the state cybersecurity grant funds. So we'll have more conversation about that when we talk about Terry's request.
Okay. Petty cash public health.
I have a resolution. I think it's Resolution B in your packet.
Yep.
If you remember, Public Health at the Health and Human Services Committee meeting talked about the need for them to be able to provide certain things to quarantined individuals in the county. So when people are quarantined, there's certain things that they can't go do, and it becomes the county's responsibility to do those things for them. We had started them out early in the process with a $500 prepaid card to just get them up and running and be able to react as timely as they could. After discussions with their fiscal officer and our purchasing department, we agree with Patty Hunt that probably the most efficient and effective way to make sure that they can continue to do this is to increase their petty cash by $500. And that would make it go through the normal petty cash procedures that are already in place. It would be reimbursed monthly through the audit, just like the petty cash is currently, so that they don't have to come back to you when that $500 is gone. It'll be self-replenishing through the normal process that's already in place. And I put a sunset clause in the resolution that when the emergency's over, that $500 would come back and they would drop back to their original $175.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on that? Wasn't it public health? Okay, I just need a motion.
Move it.
Moved by Dave O'Brien, second by Sue Clary and Cassie Fedler. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next is the authorize the treasurer to pay the right-of-way acquisition out of audit.
And
And
that's
this would be
resolution C.
I believe, resolution C. And this is for the Church Street Bridge. And I believe it's cut and dry. It's pretty much what we always do when we're in these situations.
Move it.
Was there any discussion out of DPW? Cassie's gonna move it. Is there a second? There's a second by Don Ward, Jay Skelly, Dave O'Brien. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Okay, D is the purchase of the trucks, and we discussed this in DPW. This is a case where we believe there's a savings, and we have no idea what those savings may be, but it could be anywhere from, $5,000 to $30,000. It doesn't change what's being spent; it has to be budgeted in order to cut the purchase order. It probably won't be spent anyway until next year, and we're in hopes of bringing the money back out of the 21 budget, but we can't do that until next year. So we don't know the magnitude of that yet. But this is just to make that happen so we can save some money, so we're not paying any extra for the same product. Moved by Jay Skelly and Cassie Fedler. Second. Dave O'Brien, Don Ward, Sue Clary. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay. Now we're on to E. Psychiatric expenses that Rob York brought to us. This is something that we can't do anything about. We have to pay them, and general fund is really what that's meant for, so we appropriate fund balance to make that happen. Is there any discussion on that, or I'll look for a motion first, I guess, to make that happen. Moved by Dave, second by Dana Hogan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, public health is E, district funds, am I on the right one? Hopefully F. F is,
Mental health.
mental health district funds, the other one's coming later. Okay, this one here is going to buy his laptops, and I think that was discussed in committee also. So I need a motion to move that one. Moved by Sue Clary, second by Dave O'Brien, Don Ward, Cassie Fedler. Any discussion on this one? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay. G, this is the district funds for public health, and their money they want to use in the consultant line. This also went through committee. I need a motion to make this one happen. Moved by Cassie Fedler, seconded by Sue Clary. Any discussion on this one? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. H is pharmacy services for the jail. I know Sue had some questions back in committee, but the way the bid's set up, it's a percentage off, and we can't control the prices. We only control who gets the best bid, and someone else controls who decides what gets the medicine. So I think that's where we ended up. So I need a motion to move H if we could.
I'll move.
Moved by Dave O'Brien, seconded by Don Ward. Is there any more discussion on this? Go ahead, Sue.
I want to thank Sue Claymore for helping me to understand further about this procedure. I am concerned about the medications that are on the accepted list because it's an antiquated list. And so I don't know if they ever want to update that list so that includes more of the medications that are used today. That might help the overall costs of Medicaid. And Medicaid is one of our highest numbers at the county. And so any way we can reduce what we spend in Medicaid would be worth looking at. But that being said, yes, I agree.
Okay, any more discussion? Thanks, Sue. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And resolution I, supplemental mortgage tax disbursements. Anybody have any questions on those? Motion to accept?
Move it.
Moved by Dave, second by Cassie. Don Ward. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. J is standard work reporting. That's my new hours. They've actually gone up since then, but that's besides the point. But I had to have it done for this year. So need a motion to accept that.
Move it.
Moved by Cassie and Don Ward. Second. Sue Clary, Lester. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Resolution K, to accept our budgets. Anybody have any questions on that? It's a good way to see how we're all working anyway. Motion to move it? So moved.
So,
Moved by James, Cassie, Dave O'Brien. Any seconds? Sue Clary, Don Ward, Lester. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. So next I got the AIM discussion. And I'm going to take a minute and talk about this. I think from anything you guys have heard from me, I've always thought the towns and the counties should work together. And these are things that I think we should be doing. Every town has their own ideas of things they want to do and get done, but we can't let each other fail at any point here in time. It's important to the county that we don't allow that to happen.
Hey, Brian, you mind if I interrupt you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Obviously, I have a partisan interest in this. I brought this to Al and to Brian. It's regarding the AIM payments, and I want to have Al double check me and make sure I get all my dates right. Just to give you some background, that in 2018, we all received, I believe the towns and the villages, 23 of us received AIM funding directly from the state. We budgeted, we got it. In 2019, the governor decided that it would, for anybody whose AIM is less than 2% of your total budget, AIM would come out of the sales tax, the county sales tax. So there were 17 that got directly paid from the county sales tax via Al, and there were 5 of us that still got full payment from the governor. In 2020, he decided to hold back 20% for the 5 of us who were getting it directly from the state. Everyone else was still getting it directly from the county, out of the sales tax. It was a deduction out of the sales tax. So we all budgeted a year ago for 2020 to get full because we had gotten full the year before, and the governor held back 20% of our funds. This proposal is to say that though 17 of the entities are costing full to the county, the 5 of us are requesting just to make our 20% whole, so it's equitable. So we would get 100% of our AIM eventually, just like everybody else. It's convoluted. It makes no sense, but it's coming out of Albany. And the ironic part about this whole thing is because of the 20% reduction that I can only speak for a town of Whitehall and the town of Granville, that 20% reduction now puts us below our 2% of the AIM as part of our budget, which means we would then become 100% funded by the county instead of 20% funded by the county. But who knows how the governor is going to reconcile that going forward. So all the 5 of us are asking for is to make it equitable so that we all, in the grand scheme of things, get 100% of the AIM funding we've always gotten, just like everybody else, and just asking for that 20% instead of 100% to make us even, if that makes any sense. Al, am I in the ballpark on that description and timetable? Okay.
The only other thing was involved that if the 20% came through, the five entities were willing to send a check back to the county.
If in the event the county does decide to move forward with this, and then the governor in 2021 says, we're all good, we're going to make you whole, we would then remit back to the county the amount that they had forwarded to us.
So where I wanted to extrapolate on that was that when I do a budget, it is a zero-sum game here at the county. There's winners, there's losers. I have a certain amount of money to work with. I need to make those things happen. When the towns and the county work together, the whole can equal more than the sum of the parts. The pie can get bigger. As you know, this year the pie got smaller. That's why there's no growth. And so we have to work together to help each other get better. And this is one way where we can start that working together, because the next big thing coming up is going to be how do we work with towns and county on some of these highway barns that need replacing. And there's lots of opportunities here. I think this is just a good segue into the start of that, and I'm in favor of making this happen. This has been what I've been talking about for years, kind of what I talked about when I sent you all those sheets that showed you where we had been back when I took office there just before June, to let people know that your tax rate isn't all about your budget. Your budget decides what that number is going to be, but the rate's decided by a lot of actions that we take as towns and counties throughout the year, that if we work together, we could have more things here with assessments that offset that rate. And that's what you could see. If you looked at the 20 or 30 years that I sent out to you, I guess it was 20, the first 10, we doubled, and then we say stagnant. I mean, that's what happened. We went up and back down. If we could keep that on a more reasonable pace, just as the same idea as the 2% tax cap is, that it's a more reasonable pace. If we could keep our growth at a reasonable pace so we weren't slipping backwards, that would make a real ton of difference on what that rate is. And I think this is one of the ways to get us started working together, and I'd like a motion to see this go forward. I got moved by Don Ward. Do I have a second? James Griffith, Lester, Dave O'Brien, John Rozelle. Any discussion from anyone?
Yeah, I do have a question. This is designed to be a one-time event?
Well, yeah, for multiple reasons.
Yeah, this is designed that for 2020.
Yes.
The effect is only on the 3 towns because the villages have already been made.
They've already been made. Yeah.
So the net effect on this year is about $35,000. And the net effect for next year, which would include the 2 villages, would be $59,000, unless the state gets money from the federal government, but then changes this and there's no 20% holdback, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that, or the governor could just say all AIM is on the county, it's coming out of our sales tax, and we have nothing to do with it.
That could happen.
That's probably the more likely scenario, but we don't know. But so yes, this is a one-time deal.
My concern is if we pass it as a multiple-year deal, then the government's going to look at it and say they're going to make it up.
No, we're not going to. It's not a multiple-year deal. This is a one-time deal, and I would I guess I would suggest the funding come and just raising the revenue of sales tax, because we assume it at this point, as Alex said, the worst case scenario was being minus the 250 or out 250,000 over budget. So we could raise that sales tax number so that revenue, it's coming from the same place as everybody else's AIM funding came from already. I guess that's where I come from. Dana Hogan.
I think Al was ahead of me.
I was just going to speak to Dave's question that a separate action would have to be taken next year to do the 5. Today's action is only for the 3 towns.
Yep.
Hey, Brian or Al, on these second to last paragraph, it says if at any time the state restores all or part of the AIM funding to the towns and villages made whole by the county, the municipality agrees to return the county the amount of restoration previously distributed by the county. Al, do you have something in place that would automatically take care of that?
There's nothing that would automatically trigger it. I'm hoping that the 3 entities would step up and say, hey, the governor sent us our 20%, here's a check.
But we'll sign an agreement to that effect. Is that correct before we're made whole here?
We can definitely memorialize it. That's not a terrible idea.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think just to add to that, what if the governor sends 15%? So I don't think, they wouldn't have to send back 20% if they got 15. They'd send back 15. I think we want to make that clear too.
Yeah, whatever the restoration is, would be the restoration.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. It's not what we send, it's whatever, the difference.
Yeah.
And Chuck.
I totally agree with what Matt said and you said. But this brings up another subject that I have brought up in committee many, many times. And that is, why can't we then separate out the cost of your county code enforcement? You're billing my town for code enforcement that we don't use. And I've argued this, that it wasn't fair because every town had a choice of opting into code enforcement. Our town did not. We have our own code enforcement, our own costs. We send our own code enforcement officer to school. Can't that be equitable too? Can't that be removed out of my county share of the budget? I mean, this is what we're all talking about, helping each other. I mean, and there's more towns have opted into code enforcement, which is going to raise the cost even more.
Well,
and I mean, we're on
raise the cost of the county, but efficiency for the town is in your tax rate should be a lot less than what it is on your town level.
No, it isn't. That's what I'm saying. It isn't. It's much more equitable for us to be on our own. And any government, you will also, but that's the different point.
That's just,
when you stay small, sometimes it's way cheaper than going big.
It is if you do it right, yeah.
But the point is, this is the same discussion and the same comparisons that I've used. And can that be a discussion that can be brought up? I have no problem with fairness. And I agree with Matt, it would be the fair thing to do and the right thing to do. But I think there needs to be a dialogue. There are several towns, I know Fort Edward, and I'm not sure what other towns there are now that have their own code enforcement. But I could use the same argument that we're using to do this for why I shouldn't be penalized. And I wanted to share that with everyone while we make this discussion.
That would just have to come through that committee. That discussion would take place in that committee in public safety.
Yes, but I just wanted to show that this is the dialogue that everybody is talking about.
Yep.
And it ought to be considered also. More seriously than when I did it in committee. It was kind of a lighthearted matter, and I think that this needs to be a serious discussion.
All right, well, see how Mr. Ward goes with that, Al Millette?
Yeah, I can spend some time with Mr. Shaw offline so that I don't waste your time today, and I can discuss from the county side how they're not the same and some of the potential bear traps in his request. And then we can still talk about it in committee, but let me talk to Mr. Shaw and give him some of the information that he might need for that conversation.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on this resolution? Sue Clary.
Regarding the 20%, the town of Salem, on our dissolution money, we received $26,000 less than what was expected. And we figured out in our budget how to deal with that. That being said, I agree with you, Brian, that we should all work together. And I agree with this proposal, except for in the last paragraph of the line. Okay, it says, the county is in a unique position to partner with local municipalities, and then it goes to ensure that they are not crippled by the politics and fiscal missteps of the state. I think we could have put a period after municipalities and work towards us working together all the way across the board. When we throw it back like that, it doesn't sound as if we're working together. That being said, I agree with this proposal. I think that Matt brought it forward in a manner that makes sense. If you could figure out something to do with the dissolution, Al, I'd love that. I'm teasing.
Do you want to strike it there? Is that what you want? You want to amend that so that when the resolution is made, that we don't have that line in there, that the end of that? Is that what you want to do?
I don't think you'd see that verbiage in the resolution anyway, Brian.
Okay, but you wouldn't want it. Well, do you want it in the verbiage of what they sign? Because this is something they're going to sign, is the way it's been discussed.
I don't think it's necessary. I think it's again, we're getting into division rather than partnership.
Point well taken.
I'm not opposed to eliminating it.
Okay.
It was triggered by the $14 billion hole that the state has, but certainly I don't see why taking it out would make any difference at this point. So yeah, I would agree with Sue. If that needs to be deleted, we can delete that.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So when you see this resolution, it's more or less going to say that the revenue for sales tax is going up for that exact number. So that'll be in your package. Okay, very good. On to the next one.
Before you do that, just point out when you do that letter, Jonathan McKenzie is no longer the mayor of Argyle.
Okay, who's the?
Wes Clark.
I'm sorry?
Wes Clark.
Wes Clark.
Wes.
Wes Clark.
I know Wes.
He was the former mayor, now he's the mayor again.
Could I impose upon you to carry the water to get this to him to get a sign to get it back?
Yep.
Okay, and same thing with you, Dana. You could talk to John Barton.
Yes. So you're gonna, Matt, will you send out an updated verbiage with the stricken language?
My intention was to get a copy of this, strike the language. I was going to sign it, get it to John, have him sign it, get it to you, have you sign it, Mr. Barton sign it, then get it to Bob, then get it signed and bring it back to Al. Is that reasonable?
Yep. Got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Then we'll make copies and send everybody. Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, everyone. Okay. The next item is the compensation for 6 people that amounted to $5,000 each, was $30,000. And we had 2 weeks vacation for exempt employees to buy back. So in this discussion here, it was brought that it could be in one resolution, 2 resolutions. If 2 resolutions is where you want it, that's where I'll go first. If you just want to talk about the tabled one, we can do that. So what's the wishes of the board? Cassie, I know you wanted 2. Is that where you're still at? Or would you like it to just go as the 1?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I wasn't sure. Because, we have great internet out here. I'm on my phone today, so I'm not really sure. The only reason I was pushing to separate it was because I don't want the 6 people to lose their stipend because people don't want to pay for the vacation. I want to make sure, above all, that those 6 people get their stipend. If people aren't going to support the vacation at this time, if it needs to be researched more or whatever, then I would like it to be that we pass or put forward the stipend for those 6 people. If everybody's going to agree agreeable and pass it as one, then I'm fine with that. My only thought in separating it was to make sure that the stipend went through, I didn't want one held back because of the other.
Okay, James Griffin.
Yeah, I agree with Cassie on that. I think there wanted to be more further dialogue on the vacation. I'd like to understand more about what expenses or savings can result of us paying out vacation now as opposed to holding it and paying out later. There's incremental expenses with that, with annual salary increases as such. But I wanted to understand more about the economics of the vacation, and that was really
Okay, so okay, unless there's somebody else, I think that's where we'll go. Then we'll look at splitting them. That's number one. So number one, there's 6 people at $5,000, and that funding would probably come right out of contingency. So that'll start the discussion. So Cassie, you had your hand up, and I'll take you first.
So I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the stipend. Everybody knows I'm in support of that. I'm also in support of offering those same 6 people the payback right away, because they're only going to get busier, and this isn't getting any easier. This isn't getting any shorter. And if we do get a break next year, one of my concerns in sending department heads is taking 4 weeks vacation or 8 weeks vacation next year. But I'm not opposed to adding the vacation to the stipend for those 6 people, but that only complicates it. So that's my comment. I do have a concern about department heads having to take extra vacation in 1 year, because then that puts a strain on the departments as well.
Yeah, it's according to how wore out they really are at the end of this. They might need a big break. Okay, next. Dana, do you have your hand up? Go ahead, Dana.
I did. Brian, one thing I'd like to ask for before consideration of payout of these bonuses, if we could, I would like a written attestation to the extra hours worked. I think that's a responsibility we owe to our taxpayers. I've heard numbers all across the board related to volume of hours worked over the past 8 months, and I would like it in writing from those individuals, because many of them are, I guess they would report, a handful of them report directly to the board. I have no idea whether or not, I'd like to know what those hours were that were worked per month, similar to how you broke out your hours just recently in a prior resolution.
Yep. I see where you're coming from, but I think in this situation, because I'm not really opposed to that, I think everyone should be, accountable for their time. I think in this situation, a lot of this time was work. You're not writing down, you're coming in and making things happen. You even take it home with you. And I noticed that even, and you got a good point comparing it to mine. I mean, I'm sure probably a quarter of the third of the things aren't mine, because who takes time to write all that down to come up and compile a report? You got more things to do than to write down who you called, where you went, what you did. You just do them. I mean, so I think therefore there is a certain amount, but I don't know that we can pinpoint exactly minute for minute. I don't think that's quite possible. The second thing is, what you really have to ask yourself is, do you believe in this pandemic situation, did these people work on and above whatever was expected to them when they took the job? I don't think anybody expected to have to go through this when they went into those types of jobs. So basically you're saying you either trust that they actually are doing all this, or you don't trust that they're doing all that. Is kind of the real straight division. I don't know that I want Patty Hunt to give up on doing what she's doing right at this very minute to figure out and write down how many hours she was in, worked from home, and all that. I think we're still in a situation where I don't want that report. I want her doing the things that are making us safe. So I guess that's where I'm just a little bit different, but I agree with the accountability. I just think here these people have been on the front lines the whole time. Maybe to different degrees, and maybe we can, talk about all that. But I think that's where I'm at on that. I don't know that you're going to be able to come up with an exact hourly minute report type thing.
Okay, I respect your opinion, but without that, I'd be uncomfortable supporting it. Thanks, Brian.
Okay.
So I think when they went into this, the department, as a rule, don't clock in, clock out, keep their time, and I don't think that, Dan, I don't think you're asking for minute by minute, I think you're asking for blocks of time when they're in or out. That's what I assume versus a minute by minute scenario, because no one ever does the minute by minute scenario what they're doing. So I do think that this was a rise from things that we didn't predict and didn't happen. I think that there were possibly some department heads that clock in every day when they come in. They don't clock out, but they clock in when they come out. I don't know if they continued that, or how many did that. But as sort of an in-between point here, could we ask for an attestation by each of the 6 employees that we're talking about to do a statement that says they did work all this extra time? And how we want to prepare that would be having them verify they did work that time, and that might be a bridge in between where we're at and where we're not. Because certainly if we known that we would be doing this, or if it was going to last this long, the pandemic would last this long, continue on, I think that we would have to take some different procedures, but here we are. Let's see what we can do to help these people and recognize them for what they did for the residents of Washington County.
Anyone else? Don Ward.
It would be nice to have it all in writing, but there's no doubt in my mind how hard these 6 individuals worked and all the hours that they worked. I mean, you get emails from Tim at 4:30 in the morning. So they're out there, and common sense just tells me that they were well above and beyond anything. And Patty in public health, I mean, when they get on the Zoom calls, they all look tired. So I think they more than earned this bonus for all the hard work they did for us.
Brian, I understand what Mr. Hogan's asking, and I actually respect his request. I can tell you that if I was part of this resolution, I would be hard pressed to provide you with the report that you want. Unfortunately, going back and asking to track their time that they weren't asked to track then, I think might be difficult. But I understand why you're asking, Dane, and I appreciate it. I'm just saying if it was me, I don't know if I could provide what you're asking for.
Matt Hicks.
Yeah, 2 things, and I do respect what Dana said too. I wonder if it would be acceptable, since we're going to go back here, to ask him to do more of a narrative than sort of a listing of metrics on, I worked so many hours this date, I worked so many hours that date, as opposed to have him do a narrative essay to say, over the course of the 8 months, these are the things I did above and beyond, to create some documentation or some justification to say a taxpayer on why we're doing this. Would that be acceptable? I'm just throwing that out there for an idea.
My question is, would we ask them to do that when they're in hot water right now? I think it's a bad time to ask for that. That's all I'm saying, is because this is probably the busiest time they've had yet.
At some point.
At some point, I would say it's not bad, but I don't know when that point is. When it's getting bigger by the day right now, I don't know that you ask somebody, hey, can you stop and do this so you get a bonus? It just seems wrong to ask at this point. That's, you've got other fish to fry right now that you are up. Larry? You're muted, so.
There we go. With these individuals, they've all been in like an emergency management, almost like an on-call type of situation. None of them expected to be on call like they have been since March. Okay. They've been doing it to keep the county safe and whole. They have also not only been on call 24/7, they've been wearing different hats than they've ever expected to do before because they've had to. They've kept us, I mean, is Tim Hardy a IT specialist? Is he supposed to keep us all on Zoom? Does he make sure that we're up and running so that we can do business as usual? And that's not just Tim. I mean, right across the board, each of these individuals have had to do their jobs in a different way. And quite frankly, I am so proud of every single one of them. I think they deserve the money, and they probably deserve a vacation like immediately, but we certainly don't want them going on vacation because we need them. We need them now. And I don't think Bob Hankey wants one more job to do or Sam Hall wants one more job to do because they're all so tired. I totally support this. And I think that I can't say enough what a good job they've done. So paper trail at this point, maybe in the future. Thank you, Dana. I appreciate that. But I mean, do you know what you did 4 weeks ago? And
I
you
actually
expect
probably
someone-
do. If you want me to look it up, I probably could, Sue, if you want me to look it up. And
You're
listen,
not-
Sue, and just so I could make a point to everybody, I'm not questioning anybody's work ethic. I know these folks have worked hard. I know Tim has worked hard. But the reality is you're stewards of taxpayers' money. And just because I can't accept, and I don't think a taxpayer would accept, well, they look tired on a Zoom call, so therefore we should give them a big bonus or a stipend. I don't feel comfortable giving that answer to our taxpayers. That's where I'm coming from on this.
No, and that's a point well taken, Dana. I mean, you'd like a paper trail that shows, that proves out whatever we do. We should be data driven. I agree with that.
Well, and it
completely.
should be our job as the role of the board. I guess if we're the direct supervisors of these folks, we should have been asking for that 6 months ago. Why weren't we?
Yes. Dave O'Brien.
So, I'd like to make a motion that we pay the 6 people the stipend, get it on the floor for discussion and see where we go from here.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Cassie and Sue, Don, James. Okay, back to discussion. Matt Hicks.
I'm reluctant to bring this up, but I have been in touch with Supervisor Haff, who apparently couldn't make it here today. He's not on finance anyway, and he voiced this to me, and I think I'd be remiss if I didn't at least pass along his thoughts for discussion.
But you're going to do it in a really nice manner.
I'm going to try to be tactful as best I can, but I still need to channel my inner Dana Haff here to some point. He understands the situation, and that he also understands the taxpayer situation, and how this money comes out of taxpayers' pockets. He understands that this is for work above and beyond what anybody could have conceived for these people, and it also gives them a pat in the back and rewards them for the job they've done, and gives them incentive to keep working harder because we don't know where we are in the pandemic, and we've got maybe have a long way to go on this. His concern, I got to phrase this properly, is potentially rewarding one member who's no longer with us based upon the fact that he left us in the middle of this, and this stipend would then not incentivize that person to continue to stay with us and work harder going forward into the pandemic. And his feeling was that perhaps 5 of the 6 could be justified more than 6 of the 6. I'm just bringing it up because that's what he voiced to me, and since he's not here, I wanted to share it with him because he'd probably be remiss if it wasn't discussed. If there's an amendment coming towards that, there's an amendment. If there's not, there's not. I'm going to voice what he shared with me.
Okay. Very good. That was so much more. That was very un-Dana-like. Dana, I miss you. Where are you? So is there anybody who wants to add to that discussion? Okay. So there's no amendment.
But I assume if I made that motion, there wouldn't be a second, and it would be a dead issue.
That's what I'm guessing.
If that's the case, I will pass it back.
I got Dana Hogan.
Just out of curiosity, is that a gift since he's no longer an employee?
Who?
I don't know, Al.
Al could tell us that, maybe.
But it would be salary, wouldn't it, Al? It would be run through payroll?
So it would be this money, I guess, I view it as, it's a retro pay for a period of time. We're looking back at time that they worked, is my understanding of how it was presented. If that's the case, I don't have a problem. If this is for compensation from March till now, then philosophically, I guess it doesn't raise any red flags. It's a stipend for extra work during that period of time. So that wouldn't be a gift. It would be a stipend for work performed. if that's what the resolution is proposing.
That means you'd have to give it a March to December 1st date while he was still employed, if that was the case. In other words, you probably would want to amend it. Would that be your recollection, Al?
I would be more comfortable if that verbiage was in the resolution.
Okay. Okay, any more discussion? Are we ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed?
Nay.
Dana Hogan is the only one opposed right at the moment. Is there anybody I'm missing? Because I see I don't see faces or hear voices, but if anybody wants to be opposed, I want to see them. Okay, motion's carried. Okay, now for the next discussion is going to be on the vacation time. I think Al will probably speak to how this works, and I think Melissa will probably speak to how this works, because you have to understand how the vacation's used, how it's paid, and all those sort of things to get the grasp on this. So I'll have Al weigh in first, because Melissa's muted at the moment, and that'll give Melissa time to come online here. Go ahead, Al.
So I guess I'll start trying to answer what I think was Mr. Griffith's question. The incremental cost by paying this out in future years is you'll be paying it whatever the rate is in that fiscal year. So if they're allowed to roll this vacation time for a year automatically, and then they have another year to use it, you could in theory be paying them whatever their salary is 2 years from now. So there's that incremental cost between now and 2022 is the fiscal cost of waiting. But I think that for at least where I'm sitting, it's more of an operational cost, because if you have a long-term employee, you will take my deputy, for example. She has been with the county for 20 years. She already has 5 weeks vacation with no rollover. So if we're allowed to have her roll over 2 additional weeks that she couldn't use during the shutdown, I now have her out of my office for 7 weeks. Operationally, for me, you can understand that has some consequences for me operationally, having her gone 7 weeks of my operation. So there's not really a fiscal cost to that, but there's definitely an operational and efficiency cost to that. So I think that that's part of what this resolution looks at is, do you want somebody out 7 weeks instead of 4, or 6 weeks instead of 4, whatever the case may be. I think I wanted to speak to what I think your question was. I don't think the cost is truly fiscal. I think it's more operational. And what's interesting is I think that the number that was thrown around in this resolution in some ways is worst case. So that the $100,000 that I keep hearing, I think that's like if everybody took it and said, yeah, this is a great idea. I think that you could find out that 5 or 6 people take this and the cost is only $6,000. So I don't know, we don't really know what the cost is yet until people say yes or no. So I think that you were provided with a worst case, because obviously if you can handle worst case, it can only get better than that. If that makes sense.
Okay, and so if we do this, Al, if December 31st is a sign up, we can still do it on 20's budget, but we would pay for it after we know the cost, is what you're saying.
Right. So we would have a deadline of December 31st for them to either opt in or not opt into the offer. And then we would have those buyouts would be processed, and then I would know the amount to come back to you with. So it'd probably be like February's finance. We would come back to you with the actual impact on the 2020 budget, because we would then probably be proposing a resolution, because we can't pass a resolution with a budget amendment in it because you don't know who's going to take it. So how do you amend the budget if you don't know what budget to amend?
Right.
So today what you would pass today is the offer, and then in February you would have to come back and actually do the actual money.
In January or February?
I don't think we'll have the cost by January 8th, Brian.
Okay. Melissa?
We might have it for January.
Melissa?
Just to add to what Al has already stated, currently, if an employee leaves employment, whether they retire or they resign or they're terminated, their vacation time is paid out to them. So that would be happening anyway. There is a huge benefit, I think, to the departments by letting them pay or buy back those 2 weeks to sell those back to the county, only because we do have that rollover. There's people that have accumulated quite a bit of vacation time, and that's going to be really difficult to schedule going forward. And again, if any of those people lose employment or leave employment, we are going to have to pay that time out to them.
Okay. Are there any questions for anybody? Cassie?
So my question is there's the incident management team. They can't take vacation. They can't have the time off. They can't go anywhere. I have no problem with that because they're needed to work all the time. This vacation buyout, are we only applying it to the people that cannot take time off, or are we applying it to the people of, oh, shucks, I can't go on my cruise because it was canceled, so I didn't take my vacation? They could have stayed home. They could have worked in the yard. They could have worked in the house. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly. This buyback is for people that we can't let go, or is it for anybody who's just not taking it this year?
I'm going to go with Melissa first and then back to Al.
Yeah, the way it is proposed, it's for anyone that's on the exempt salary schedule. So those people are mostly the department heads and second in command supervisors in departments. I agree that the incident management team, obviously they can't take vacation during this time, but given the day-to-day events that we have going on at the county, I think there's also a large group of other people that are not able to take vacation at this time. And I don't think it's just that they can't go on their scheduled cruise or out of town, but it's just critical that they're here right now because we're sending emails out, we're communicating pretty much on a daily basis with everyone. So I think it would be very difficult for many people to take vacation at this time, at least in that exempt salary schedule.
Okay.
Hey, Al, what do you want to add, Al?
I'll yield to Mr. Hogan first, Brian.
Okay, Mr. Hogan.
Thanks, Al. Hey, last month, Dana Half had requested a listing, a job class of the individuals that this would impact. Has that been distributed yet?
It's the exempt salary group, yes.
Okay.
It's always been the exempt
We haven't got
group.
he was told he would get a copy of that job listing. I take it that's not been distributed. Is that correct? Without names, just job class.
Well, the exempt salary is probably listed both ways, and that will be in your packet for the board meeting anyway, because we have to, or did we already adopt? We already adopted it. You already have it. It was adopted at budget time.
Well, but I wanted it, I know he wanted it specific to the individuals that this would be impacting, and I haven't got it. He was told he would get it. I'm pretty certain I heard somebody say, "We will get that to you, Dana." And I as of yesterday, he had not received it.
Okay, so we'll include that with the resolution if there is one, or we can send it out even if there isn't one. But
and just to go on to further. All right, and to further go on to, I think Cassie posed a good question, although you mentioned a cruise. My question was, are these people who said, I can't go out of state, which is my normal destination for vacation, so I'm not going to waste it because once I get back, I have a 2-week quarantine. And this was part of the concern I had, and I start to get a little concerned when I hear about directors and their deputies, and let's say in June and July and August, we couldn't take vacations. I'm still curious, and I know, Brian, at one point, I think last month, you had indicated these folks have to take their vacations. They're burning out. Did I heard that correctly?
At some point, they do need to take vacations, but they don't need to take 8 weeks.
I don't know how buyback solves that. I don't know how buyback solves that problem. And I feel like we've conflated issues here. We're having people who are burning out, and they're having challenges dealing with the day-to-day workflow because they're working very hard. But the reality is we're coming back and saying, okay, you're not taking your vacation. Now we're going to buy back. How have we solved any problems here?
Well, the problem you've really solved there is the inefficiency with all those people out to once. If you shorten that window so they aren't all overlapping and they're all missing, you've solved quite a bit. But
I guess I'm trying to think back to like June, July, and August. The volume of the number and the case counts were down. I guess I'm struggling. And this was a question that was posed to me. People couldn't take vacations in July and August?
They were pretty much told to stay away from certain areas. I mean, they even had problems right here locally in Warren County with the people coming in from the outside and everything. They were pretty much told to not be in those positions. And
well, I understand that, but a vacation can include. Well, but a vacation could include staying home. You know, you make those choices, and that's where I was going. If it was an issue of burnout, and the folks couldn't take vacations, were we dealing with individuals who just made the willing choice? And again, I'm asking the question. That's why I wanted to see the employee class listing. I think that would have helped maybe understand.
Okay, I see where you're at, Dana. No, where I was referring to there was the ones that are on the 6. And basically, you're really looking at Patty, KJ, Tim. They really can't be away, but boy, do they need a break. I'm really referring to them. I'm sure there's others individuals that includes, but you should have a list of all the exempt employees that would curtail, and we can get that, and we should have that. I just assumed everyone could look at their list of exempt employees because it's all right with the budget. It's the same list. Other than elected officials don't get vacations and stuff like that, I guess is the way it works. But go ahead, Al.
I just wanted to speak to Mr. Hogan's first request. I have a sheet that I worked up to cost this thing out that I'd be more than happy to share.
Okay.
Yes, please. Thanks, Al.
Yep.
Dave O'Brien?
I have a curiosity question on exempt employees. We're talking about department heads and deputies. What about lawyers? They're exempt, aren't they? Would they fit in this category? They weren't able to take vacation because of criteria. We have EAs, we have public defenders. Are we going to expand that exempt list to all those people? Did they classify that they couldn't take vacations because of their duties, like some of these people could? I mean,
yeah, that's why you need to see the list.
Giving a blanket exempt is not a good suggestion. However, we calculate the $75,000, that could be severely limited by the number of employees actually affected.
Dana Hogan.
And I'm sorry to belabor this point, but can we clearly define what it means to say they could not take vacations? I guess I'm confused by the definition of what that means.
Pretty much under the state of emergency order, people have been told to not be on vacation. They've really been told to, stay clear of the crowds and the masses. Yes, they could hike in the Adirondacks. There is certain things they could do. That doesn't mean that's what a person would do on vacation. So I'll let Melissa answer to some of that because I see she has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because I don't want any of you supervisors to think that no department heads have taken vacation since March. There has been some vacation time taken. The problem is when things kind of lightened up with the whole COVID thing in the middle of the summer, which ideally is when most people want to take vacation, it's hard to stay open, manage your departments. When all your hourly employees want vacation, it's hard for some of these exempt salary people, department heads and supervisors, to get their vacations in as well. So I don't want anyone to think that nobody is taking vacations, but it's certainly limited. And the rollover has just allowed, although it's been a nice benefit, it's just allowed these accumulations to just grow and grow to the point where, some people are going to have probably about 10 weeks vacation as we get through January.
That pretty much goes back to the point that originally we thought this thing was going to last 2 or 3 weeks, not the whole year. Cassie Fedler? Oh, I got John Rosella.
Their answer to my question when I was trying to ask of when they said the department heads had to be on hand for the constantly changing state directives, that makes perfect sense to me, that those people can't take vacation. When the rules of the game are changing on a constant basis, I have no problem with that. I totally understand that those department heads that were involved, or maybe all of them, they had to react continually. I have no problem with them falling into this category. My only concern was the ones that, well, you couldn't go somewhere. Well, in all reality, I can never go anywhere, so, but I do get a day off. But I get that the department heads had to stay there for all the state information and the constantly changing. I don't have any problem with that group. I just needed clarification on it. That's all, of not being able to take vacation because either the executive order through the county or the continually changing executive orders through the state required the department heads to be accessible. That makes sense to me. Giving back vacation just because they couldn't go somewhere, that doesn't make as much sense. But I'm trying to make a difference. If you understand that, Melissa's comment made perfect sense to me. That I understand why a bunch of these department heads definitely deserve, or we should buy back, because it'll cause problems in the future. Because I opened the can of worms. I guess I should say my question was answered.
Okay. John Roselle. Good to see you, John.
They see everybody. Let's go back at the very beginning. You're just still on the same resolution.
No, we've gone from the stipend to the vacation, but you can add anything you'd like to add, John.
No, I know we've gone from the stipend to the vacation. Are they both still on the same resolution, or did we divide the resolution?
No, we divided them out.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay. Sue?
On this, Melissa, could you clarify something for me? Did you say that when a person retires or resigns and goes somewhere else, there's a buyout of that vacation time?
That's correct. And also to clarify, and I don't know if I mentioned this part, Sue, is if an employee is not able to use their vacation time by their next anniversary date, usually that time is lost. They forfeit it.
So I guess my question is if what you were proposing is to buy out only 2020's vacation time, so that in 2021, there would not be an influx of people on vacation in June or July and August. So that someone doesn't use 8 weeks of vacation, that maybe they'd only use 4 weeks of vacation.
Yeah, that's correct. It would help do that. And it would only be up to the 2 weeks. So if you do have somebody that has 8 or 10 weeks of vacation, you would just be approving to buy back up to 2 weeks of it. And like Al said earlier, there's probably a good number of exempt employees that will not even try to do this. I would guess maybe almost half would probably not try to buy back time.
So it's to their advantage to actually keep that time for when they decide to resign or retire. Is that correct, Al?
Or actually some of them are going to value the vacation time more than the money, interestingly enough.
Right. Thank you.
I think or Melissa Williams is going to clarify too. The vacation time goes away when we're not rolling it over. It happens to be in this instance, it's rolled over. So there has to be an understanding of that too. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Matt Hicks.
Just some clarifications. This isn't a 2020 or 2021 thing. Everyone's vacation anniversary date is different, right?
Yeah.
It's a rolling thing. So it's not like everybody goes in the summertime. It's a rolling thing, right?
Right.
Okay. This is also sort of an embedded asset they have. They own that vacation time and it's worth X. And so they've always got it. And if they use it, they use their asset. If they take the money, they use their asset. If they leave the employment of the county, then we would pay out that asset to them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So all we're doing is taking an asset that they own that has a value and buying it back from them at a maximum of 2 weeks at their option.
That's pretty much summed up.
Does that sums it up where we are, what we're doing? Okay, because if we decline to do this, if I'm somebody on this list and I decline the money, or we decline to set this program up, I have the option of either getting to my anniversary date and losing my vacation, or saying, screw it, I got 2 weeks coming, I'm gonna use those 2 weeks, because if I don't, I lose it, so.
Yeah, I'll see you on the
2 weeks.
anniversary date.
I'll see you in 2 weeks, right? There'll be
Or 10 weeks.
a multitude of people that could do that, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about X amount of dollars versus X amount of efficiency and how to move the county forward. That's what we're weighing here. Is that reasonable?
That's very reasonable.
Okay. I want to make sure Al and Melissa, I didn't get off kilter on anything that they understand. That's all.
Okay, is there any other questions? Lester?
Yes, got two. First of all, I agree with Cassie that it needs to be for people who are told they cannot take their vacation, not just because they can't or their cruise is canceled or they don't want to go to Pennsylvania. It should be those who are told by the county, please not go on vacation. And I think this, whoever does, if they don't take it, they still have to be told when they can take their vacation. They can't just say, I'm going to take 6 weeks off. It's got to be approved by somebody, right? So we still have some level of
Control.
Approval on that. I would think. Okay, that's it.
Okay. Any more discussion? We had a motion to move it second, right? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, Dana Hogan's nay. Is there any other nays that I don't see? I want to make sure we get these correct. I know Dave moved it, but I don't know about. Did we have a second?
I don't see a motion on this second, on the second portion.
I made a motion on the.
Oh, you made the motion? Okay, so we need a motion first, I guess. We're gonna start with Cassie. Do we have a second? Sue Clary, Dave O'Brien, James Griffith. Dana Hogan, were you seconded or did you have discussion?
I hit an itch in my shoulder, Brian.
Okay, no, it looked like your hand went up. I was like, that can't be. Okay, very good. Okay, all in favor say aye.
I have a question.
You're gonna go ahead.
I would like to see, before we vote on this full board, is a list of those people impacted.
Yes, and I think we're gonna get that. I hope we're gonna get that.
And I would ask that careful scrutiny be given to those people who fit in a category that are not department heads or assistant department heads, or by virtue of their position were required to do things such as public health nurses and different that required to do things that were based on that. I think we have to look at some of the other positions like attorneys, public defenders, and other categories like that. I'm not trying to pick on them, but I'm just the ones that come to mind. So I would like to have those defined, make sure we agree on before we move forward with paying the stipend out.
And we should have that. We'll try to have that in the packet so that goes to the board meeting.
We'll email it out today. I mean,
what's that?
We're not going to wait till next week.
No.
Let's get the email out today.
It could be emailed out today if we have it. Yes.
We should.
Yeah, but you certainly got to have it before the board meeting so you can see that list if there's anything you want to change, amend, whatever. Okay. Dan Chubb.
At the board meeting, is there going to be a rough estimate of the cost of this resolution?
You've been given the rough cost, but I think Al's right. You can't do the amendment of the money until you find out what the amount of money is.
Right, but in the resolution, you'll have that rough cost again, whatever.
We can do that if that's what you want.
Well,
it's hard to know the accuracy. It's according to who, because all these people can opt to take it or not take it.
But Dan's point is, it was in the previous one. It should be in the.
It's a range. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Dana Hogan.
Hey, I know, Dave, you had asked for a listing of the people. We're going to do a listing by job class, right? We're not going to put names out into a package like that, correct?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Thank you. Yep, thanks.
I'm just I need some clarification from Mr. O'Brien. When we draft this resolution, we're gonna have a resolution sent out tomorrow, and he wants to exclude some people, we kind of need to know who he wants to exclude now. Or you're gonna have to have a
Well, I
resolution.
don't, right, you'd have to exclude them on the floor if somebody had a problem with whoever's on the list. I don't think we're gonna have that together for this meeting. That's the problem. I mean, how can you decide when you don't have the list?
Why are we not putting names next to positions? We know who it is?
Well, it's kind of how we're supposed to handle personnel, is with positions, not names.
It's public information, their salary's public, their benefits are public. Their 2 weeks worth of vacation is a number that's based upon their salary. I'm just trying to go through this to see.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, I'm just asking why, I guess.
Yeah, it's easy to match them up because we already have all the list of exempt people, so.
If we shouldn't, we shouldn't, I just don't know.
There's nothing protected, Matt, if that's what you're asking.
That's what I'm asking.
So Dana Hogan, do you want to respond to that as to why you would not want the names and just the positions if it's all public information anyway? I guess that's a reasonable question.
It's public information if the general public wants to seek that information out. I don't see any reason to put names out of people who may be impacted by this, who may have this benefit available to them. I just think I like a modicum of privacy for some of these people, but
Well, in the previous one, are we going to put the 6 people who are getting the stipend just with their titles, or are we putting their name too?
It was titles, I believe.
Okay.
It was title. It was my title. So for consistency, I would go with title. Dave?
To speak to Al's point, couldn't the resolution go in and the package tomorrow and the amended list be sent out on Monday or Tuesday to cover both bases? I mean, I don't want to say automatically. I'd like to see some time spent on figuring out who these positions are. And
Oh, no, Al's already been through it. Al's got the whole list compiled and what he thinks, and he can send you. That's not a problem. I think that's an easy one, the number he gave you. Anything else? Okay. We need to vote again. Are we there? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
okay.
You know. Okay. Any more discussion? Very good. So at this time, we have some other things to discuss, but we have Larry on, don't we? Yeah, Larry's there. So we should probably go to Larry for executive session right now, so we don't take his time. But we will be coming back into session. So
I'll move it, Roger, if you tell me why we're going to executive session.
We are going into executive session, put a face to the voice, to discuss collective negotiations under the Taylor.
I'll move that.
okay, second. Okay, good. Dave, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, is YouTube gone?